So, welcome to the first video of my journey to becoming an anime fan. Now, if you watch the preface video, there was a little bit of an indication of my age, so where I sort of sit in the grand scheme of things, and a little bit about geography. And these are very important when you're talking about an anime fan's journey, because different countries had different shows at different times, fandoms started up in different countries at different times, and availability of product or anime, if you will, as anime itself, started in different places at different times. So, as I indicated in the preface video, I was born in the mid 1970s, and I was born in a small, semi-rural country town in Western Australia. So, growing up, we had 3 broadcast channels. We had a lot of localizations going on. So, I'm not going to spend too much time rabbiting on. I mean, I'm sure you could jump on any retro channel that talks about Saturday morning cartoons. It's pretty much what the late 70s, early 80s kids digested. There was a lot of localized anime in there. As a kid, you don't care. I always get a bit weirded out when people are like, oh, I remember watching Tetsuo Adam when I was 5 years old. It's like, no, you're watching Astro Boy. None of us actually cared about the end credits. We're just worried about the next cartoon coming on. So it was like, skip, which you couldn't do because broadcast TV. So, as a kid growing up, we watched it all. There was, you had your Astro Boys, your Kim of the White Line, your Star Blazers, Voltron. As I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So, this is a pre-video. This is sort of the journey to becoming an anime fan. So, up to around age 10, I was just like every kid. I was just hungry for the next thing that was on the morning cartoons or the afternoon cartoons or the Saturday cartoons. And certainly after turning 10, I continued the journey. A lot of my mates started getting into skateboarding and surfing and that, but I was proximately located more to farming, so most of my days were spent working out in properties and paddocks. So really, I only, it was when it was wet, raining, I'd jump in and watch TV. Certainly when I turned 10, there was another broadcast channel, actually 2 more broadcast channels entered the arena of West Australia, which of course was SBS and Channel 10. So, we didn't have a lot of content. We certainly didn't have cable TV. We didn't have satellite TV in West Australia. I know a few people in the early 90s did start getting into that, but certainly in the 80s it wasn't something around. And certainly mid-1990s where it was sort of a bit of a kick-off for me, because I started getting a job and I was reading comic books. Like most people, I got into the Marvel and the DC because, again, being in a rural area, we didn't have comic book shops. We had news agencies, which are sort of like something, if you're in America, sort of halfway between a newsstand and a 7-Eleven. And they only had like the top 10 of each publisher, and there was a lot going on with those at the time. Again, as 15, I'm just sort of buying them like, oh, I just want to read the next issue. I'm not terribly worried about the copyright notices or anything like that. You're not sort of going, oh my god, that one's written by Jim, or inked by Jim Lee, and that one's So this is sort of this time where it was more just you're a young person, you're consuming everything you can consume. Certainly again around that sort of age 15, we started getting some different sort of cartoons on TV, which was on SBS. They were sort of more of a foreign network. They did a lot of art house stuff. So there was, your more mature animations, things like Liquid TV, Eat Carpet, a lot of Harry Crumb stuff. So, we're sort of, at that point I'm transitioning. I'm not watching, Samurai Pizza Cats anymore. I'm watching, Aeon Flux and Beavis and Butthead. And so I'm continuing that anime journey. And this is probably where I differ from a lot of my peers at that time, because a lot of my peers are sort of watching Rage and they're watching music video shows and that. And I'm searching out the, alt video, alt movies and alt animation stylings and stuff like that. And that's sort of where that period of time in my life was. And as I said, we didn't have comic book shops, so, and even video stores, because I know a few people, particularly in America, are going to be like, but by 1990 we had US Manga Corps. Well, we didn't in Australia. And in fact, this is sort of where this video comes to its conclusion, per se, is so in 1991 I was at high school, and a mate came to me, because we used to, we're all a bunch of nerds, we were reading comic books. watching weird stuff, and a mate comes to me and sort of like, oh man, you got to watch this movie. It's, you know, it's animated, or, you know, because at that point, animated just meant it was a cartoon. You know, and I mean, I know people are probably going to get a bit upset, and, you know, at that point, it was a cartoon, and it is what it is. Yeah, and he's telling me about this cartoon, and it's got, you know, this guy running through the streets. He's being chased by the army, and this, you know, dog jumps up and he shoots it in the head and blows its brains across the windshield of a car, and, you know, he races and then through the streets he ends up sort of on this bridge and he gets shot to hell. And of course, you know, as you do, you're sort of like, well, what movie was it? You know, and it's Akira. So straight down to the local Blockbuster. Yes, in Australia we did have Blockbuster, and I rented it. And now we got the Streamline Pictures version. So, and I think it was actually re-licensed maybe under Village Roadshow over here. I'm not sure. Someone will correct me in the comments. So there's no pre-trailer. There's literally just straight in, copyright notice, into the movie. You know, so again, at that time, it's just a really cool cyberpunk cartoon. You know, it's up there with the Harry Crumbs and, you know, all those sort of really cool, you know, alternative, it's not Disney sort of animations. So, and that was it. I mean, there was nothing else on the video shelves. We didn't have US Manga Corps, so there was nothing there. There was nothing else. So that was that. And so obviously we go through, you know, I'm back to reading comic books and just watching weird movies, Hong Kong cinema, stuff like that, throughout, you know, 1991, 1992. And obviously 1992, I graduate from high school and I go to college. And the town I grew up in didn't have a college, so then we had to go 35 kilometres or about 20 mile up the road to the next town to go to college. Again, it was still a very small town. From a pop culture perspective, yeah, it had a video game arcade, which we didn't have in my town at that time. You know, more diverse group of people, so the nerd group exploded. And, you know, it's 1993, so, you know, video games are becoming really big and pop culture is becoming really big. And, you know, this is sort of that, I'm in this mix. You know, we're trading, I'm doing an IT course, so we're trading video games all the time, and, you know, getting all these sort of like bumping into people who read different books and different comic books, and, you know, that sort of nerd cultures is simmering away. And in this all, so the next town up from that town, which was about another 20 mile up the road or 35 kilometres, was actually a major city hub. And so when I'm between classes, I'm sneaking up on the bus to go to this. And during this time, because it's a bigger metropolitan area, so because it's got a bigger video game arcade there, and it's got, you know, record stores that have got a lot more diversity in their music industry and that. And I trip over a comic book shop, my very first comic book shop per se. It was a little shop called actually Third Millennium, for those who are watching who are West Australian remember it. It was tucked away in a very back arcade, so very hard to find. And of course, you know, it's called Third Millennium Bookstore, but, you know, I'm reading books, I'm reading comic books, all the rest. So I've gone in there, and I'm finding comic books that are several issues ahead of the ones I'm getting from the news agency. So you imagine I'm reading, like, you know, X-Men Volume 2, Issue 7. They've got Issue 10. So I'm intrigued. You know, all of a sudden I can time skip forward and actually, because obviously it's that hunger. Even before the internet, there was always that hunger to get to the next story, in comic books. And that's because they use the cliffhanger quite well. So I start buying my comic books from Third Millennium, and I actually get a what we would call a subscription over here. So I have a monthly store order for all my favourite Marvel comic books. And of course, as you're sort of chewing through the shelf, you're finding all these other books. And some of the ones I found obviously was Robotech, I think it was called Firewalkers, which is, yeah, I grew up with Robotech. You know, Robotech came out when I was probably about 10, 11 years old. I loved it. It was a great series. Did not associate, you know, where Robotech came from at the time. So, yeah, I'm buying, you know, these Robotech comic books, and I'm buying, I think there was Zillion and a few others. There was one, I think it was Adam Warren's A Dirty Pair, which, you know, the artwork's just fantastic. And amongst this all, I buy a book called Protoculture Addicts. Now, older fans will know Protocol Addicts, and I'm thinking it's a Robotech magazine. I don't draw the association at the time, so like, oh, it's just a Robotech magazine. And this is an anime bag. And this is where this video ends. So if you want me to pick up the journey, join me on the next video.